On a quiet April morning in Greenfield, Indiana, a 14-year-old girl stepped outside her home. She was young, full of dreams, and had her whole life ahead of her. But that morning would be the last time anyone saw Emily Pike alive. Her disappearance tore through the heart of her small town, sparking desperate searches, media headlines, and whispers of dark possibilities. Welcome to Dark Files, where we uncover the stories that linger in the shadows, the true crimes and unsolved mysteries that refuse to rest. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because these are the stories you'll never forget. Emily Pike was no different from countless other teenagers her age. She loved art, doodling in her sketchbooks for hours at a time. She had a soft spot for music and often hummed quietly while walking to school. Friends described her as shy, even timid, but deeply kind, the type of girl who would lend her notebook to someone who forgot theirs or sit with a quiet kid at lunch. She lived with her family in a modest home in Greenfield, Indiana. Life wasn't perfect, but Emily had big dreams. She once told a teacher she wanted to become a writer, that she loved weaving stories from her imagination. To most, Emily was just an ordinary girl in an ordinary town. But fate, it seems, had other plans. Because in the spring of 1978, the normalcy of Emily's world shattered, leaving behind a mystery that still chills anyone who dares to look closer. April 26th began like any other. The sun was just beginning to climb over the horizon, casting long shadows across Greenfield streets. Emily's morning was routine. She packed her schoolbooks, gave a quick goodbye, and stepped outside. Neighbors remember seeing her walk down the street, her school bag bouncing at her side. For a while, everything seemed ordinary. But somewhere between her home and where she should have been, Emily vanished. When she failed to return that evening, her family immediately knew something was wrong. Emily wasn't the type to run away. She wasn't rebellious. And she never, ever stayed out without telling someone. Panic set in. Calls were made. Friends were asked. But no one had seen Emily. The search began that very night. Flashlights combed the fields. Neighbors knocked on doors. Parents stood on porches shouting her name into the dark. Yet the silence that came back was deafening. Emily Pike had disappeared without a trace. By the next morning, police launched a formal investigation. Flyers with Emily's photo went up on telephone poles. Her case spread quickly through the small community, a missing child in a town where such things simply didn't happen. Detectives questioned family members first. They asked the same chilling questions investigators always start with. Did Emily run away? Was there trouble at home? Could someone close to her have been involved? But no evidence suggested Emily had left willingly. Her schoolbooks were missing, yes, but all her other belongings were at home. There were no signs of a struggle in her room, no notes left behind, no trail to follow. And that was what made the case so unsettling. She hadn't simply run away. She had been taken. The question was by who, and why. In the days that followed, Greenfield transformed from a quiet Indiana town into a community gripped by fear. Volunteers poured in. Farmers left their fields to walk shoulder to shoulder through the woods. Mothers stood guard at bus stops, watching every unfamiliar car that drove by. The police organized search parties, using dogs to track her scent. Helicopters circled overhead. Creeks were drained. Every barn, every shed, every abandoned building was checked. And yet, nothing. Not a scrap of clothing. Not a footprint. Not a single clue to suggest where Emily had gone. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed her whole. For a small town like Greenfield, the idea that a child could vanish so completely was terrifying. If it could happen to Emily, it could happen to anyone. As the days turned into weeks, theories began to spread. Some believed Emily had been abducted by someone she knew, a trusted neighbor or even a family acquaintance. After all, there were no signs of a struggle. Could she have gotten into a car willingly? Others whispered darker possibilities. Greenfield sat along old highways and backroads often used by long-haul truckers. Could Emily have been taken by a stranger passing through town? And then there were the rumors. The kind that thrive in small communities where fear runs deep. People claimed to see Emily in distant towns. A waitress swore a girl matching her description had come into a diner, looking frightened. A farmer insisted he heard a young girl's cries near his property. Each lead sparked hope, but when police followed up, each one fell apart. Theories mounted, but facts were scarce, and the mystery only deepened. Investigators did have persons of interest. One man, known around town for his strange behavior, was questioned multiple times. He lived alone, rarely spoke to neighbors, and had a history of petty crimes. Whispers followed him everywhere, but when police searched his property, they found nothing. Another lead pointed to a traveling carnival that had passed through just weeks before Emily's disappearance. Some speculated she may have met someone connected to it, but again, no evidence supported the theory. Each time investigators thought they had a lead, it turned cold. Every path led nowhere. And Emily's face, once fresh in the minds of the community, began to fade into a haunting missing poster taped to store windows. With each passing month, hope dimmed. Parents no longer let their children walk to school alone. Streets once filled with bicycles and laughter grew quiet. The town was on edge, locked in a kind of fear it had never known before. But beneath that fear was something else: frustration. People began to ask hard questions. Were the police doing enough? Had they missed something? Were they being misled? The case of Emily Pike wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a wound, one that cut into the very fabric of Greenfield. And as the one-year anniversary of her disappearance approached, a chilling realization settled in: Emily might never be found. But then, a discovery changed everything. On a cold December morning, 8 months after Emily vanished, a farmer walking his property stumbled upon something that made his heart stop. In a shallow cornfield ditch, partially covered by leaves and snow, lay the remains of a young girl. The coroner would later confirm the unthinkable: it was Emily Pike. The discovery shattered the town. For months, people had clung to a fragile hope that Emily was alive somewhere. Maybe being held, maybe lost, but still breathing. That hope was gone now, replaced by a crushing grief. What made the discovery even worse was the condition of her remains. Too much time had passed to determine exactly how she died. The coroner could not say whether Emily had been murdered, or if she had died some other way. All investigators could conclude was that foul play was highly likely. It was not the closure her family prayed for. It was only another dark chapter. Once Emily's body was found, police redoubled their efforts. Every lead, every rumor, every suspicious figure was re-examined. Yet, frustratingly, the same problem remained: no solid evidence. Detectives admitted that months of exposure in the elements had destroyed crucial forensic clues. There were no clear fingerprints, no fibers, no usable DNA. The location itself, a wide, open cornfield, provided no shelter, no witnesses, and no cameras. Investigators circled back to familiar names. The loner with a strange reputation. The carnival workers who'd passed through town. Even distant relatives. But one by one, each theory collapsed without proof. It seemed Emily's killer, if indeed there was one, had vanished as completely as she once had. For Emily's family, the hardest truth was this: finding her body did not bring answers. It brought only more questions. To this day, Emily's case remains a source of speculation. Some believe she may have been lured away by someone she trusted, possibly under the promise of safety or friendship. Others argue her disappearance had the markings of a calculated abduction by a stranger. And then there's the most unsettling theory of all, that someone in Greenfield itself, someone living quietly among neighbors, shopping in the same stores, walking the same streets, knows exactly what happened to Emily Pike. The idea that a killer may have been, or still is, hiding in plain sight is what keeps this mystery alive. Because if that is true, then Emily's case isn't just unsolved, it's unfinished. Emily's family continues to fight for answers. They've organized vigils, lobbied for more resources, and kept her memory alive. Her face still appears in news articles and social media posts every year, as reminders that justice has not been served. For Greenfield, Emily Pike's story has become a scar. Parents still tell their children not to walk alone, even decades later. The town still remembers the eerie silence of that April morning, the search parties, the rumors, and finally, the heartbreak in December. Emily's case stands as a reminder that sometimes, in the darkest corners of small-town America, monsters don't announce themselves. They blend in. They wait. And sometimes, they get away. But as long as her story is told, Emily Pike will never be forgotten. If you found this story as chilling as we did, don't forget to subscribe to Dark Files. Every week, we uncover the mysteries and true crimes that leave us searching for answers in the shadows. And remember, behind every headline, behind every unsolved case, there's a family still waiting, and a truth still buried. I'm Chris, and this was Dark Files. If you have information about this case, contact the Hancock County Sheriff's Office.